I ought to say, there's a lot of people out there doing a lot of things, and I'm trying to do my work here, trying to promote the health and truth directly, but also indirectly by going online. And I must say, I really appreciate the support I've gotten by some people who do watch my videos and watch several videos, even, or, stay tuned to the next videos, or always look to see what I have to say, and I think that's very cool. I think that's very eye-opening. I think everybody has their placement and their role, their duty to do within society. Their duty to do. But it's true. Everybody has their contribution. And I'm kind of actually promoting that people do have that contribution rather than just saying to follow my contribution. Because I think that's where we have to be in society, is understanding that, well, we're still human. Well, nature has the answers for us, right? But, it's these simple little things that I see go overlooked, and so that's the simple mission at hand that I wish to promote. And, there's another thing, too, that came to mind when I wanted to record this. It's the fact that I'm not really copying anybody. Sure, I get inspirations from people like Mark Passio or Mike Adams, right? But the truth is, for quite some time, since I was 13, I'd say I woke up more, Beforehand, I was just having fun in life, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I have a very loving family, and I still do. And again, people don't typically have that. So I'm very, very lucky to be where I am. But I did gain some weight during that course of time, and then when I started to wake up, moreover, toward age 2016, I started to look around me and start to ask more questions, a lot more questions. But Trump was part of that motivational push to do that. Not that I support Trump, but I did at the time when I was playing into this two-party political system. But I will say that, when I was in school, I would come home and, as it is at school, I was very different. But I would ask a lot of questions. I would kind of think out each situation, and I would just talk to myself a lot. Not in a schizophrenic way, but in a way that made it where I liked to investigate. And then we saw that even more when I became a germophobic during around that time, or I'd say maybe a little bit beforehand. It was a bit more childish, a bit more stubborn, if you will, in different ways. Say, no, I don't want to eat salad. No, I don't want to eat fruit at all. Now, I want to eat salad. I want to eat fruit. I could eat anything back then, but I was stubborn as to certain choices, for sure. I wasn't too bratty, though, I would say, given my parents' perspective. I wasn't, asking for anything really all that much, but still, as a child, we have these vulnerabilities to ourselves that the world gives on to us. Like, I thought that I should have Lucky Charms every morning because it would give me luck. Meanwhile, I was depressed, and then I actually thought for quite a long time, actually, that by thinking bad things, I would get good things. Some strange ideologies that I sort of just created by myself and put in my own head. But my parents were always a good positive influence, never bad. And, talking with them always sorted it out and picked the good out of the bad. Picked the reasonable, the understandable out of the confusion of our society, our mass media culture, our mass food poisoning culture. Whatever you want to call it. But there's so much I can recall from the past, being right now that I'm not far from the future. Far from the past. But it's like I see it that like perhaps we're all connected and we all just have different experiences. So yes, everybody's body reacts differently, but that's because we all went through different experiences. And there's different things like that, but we can pick it out and we could say, oh, there's ironies to that situation, ironies to that situation. So yes, there's an irony to the situation. I was a child and I was manipulated, but I was also waking up at the same time. And part of that is the transition to wanting to wake up and to becoming more aware is, yes, you can't understand everything, but you can understand little parts at a time in order to get there. Right. So, I really do appreciate it, the littlest amount of support, even the littlest share, because I see how much that goes. But it's just bizarre. It's bizarre to me how far people will go into their lives without knowing some truths to the world that can really free them or open themselves up to a whole realm of possibility. but it's like I've always had this need to question things around me, and then I saw even later on in high school when I had to write research papers and scientific papers, I loved doing that. But I then warned myself after school not to be too scientism-like, because then I saw how this world is so scientism-like, even though nobody cares what they eat. Even though nobody cares about that stuff, they do care. There's an irony to that situation as well. And then they use science against us because that's what the elites believe in. It's this scientific atheism, statheism, as Mark Passio puts it. When I stumble against his works, upon his works, it's bizarre. But how much I agree, how much it's easily absorbable at this point. But I remember back when I was into the whole politics thing, looking into statism and anarchy, I was just so confused. I was trying to absorb it, but it was like something was holding me back. But I knew deep down inside, because I built a prior relationship to understanding this world, is that nature has all the answers. I said that to myself before I did not believe in statism. Before I was out of statism, if you will. So, I kind of had that foundation, if you will, I guess, because the world has all the answers, so natural law would kind of coexist with this message that nature is the answer, or that the world around us has all the answers, and by simply being in its presence, having faith, speaking to it, and so forth, we can get our way through this mess. And I still believe that. And so that's the thing. I have a consistent message that stayed with me since maybe 16, maybe before that, right? And then, getting into politics was a whole different thing to me. But then I realized, okay, everything's connected. And of course it is. I've been saying that, and then I just connected the dots with what I've been saying, and also what I've been told, and also what I've been exposed to, and every little thing. Connecting all the dots, right? Just absorbing it all. Because as a child, you can either conform with the crowd or you could absorb everything in, right? I was very silent for most of my life. I didn't talk much. I didn't do much. I didn't even dance on the dance floor. Now, I'm the one dancing. Now, I'm the one talking. Now, I'm the one putting out the content out there. In fact, I'm speaking faster than anybody else, and I can probably comprehend more than most of society, not to brag, but to prove a point that a lot of people are stuck in mental schisms or prisons or something of the sort that just completely limits their potential to grow, literally grow if it's talking healthy-wise, but not even in health, Like, how did I get into the health message? Because I asked questions in the health industry, and it helped me feel a little bit more special doing something that other people weren't doing, but then also realizing, it's actually really important. And then once I started to eat healthier, my brain started to work faster, and then, that also contributed to my fast speaking, but that also contributed to me losing that weight. And then I also exercised during that time, which I felt the need to also because I had social life. A lot of social life, So, and I don't think it's ever bad to point out to those missteps that you have or those problems that you had, Yes, I came out about who I am eating Lucky Charms most of my life, but, okay, I'm not going to limit my kids from not having that. But it's about understanding. It's about introducing naturally. It's about creating that natural environment. You don't have to force your kids to not do something. You can create a natural environment that creates that environment that you want to see without having to inflict any force. There's different things to look at, and people just don't want to look at it. They don't even want to think about it. In fact, that's the thing, is I spent years of my life thinking about things that other people weren't thinking, and spent time on it, even weeks. Something I called the Great Depression in my life was something just me sitting in the dark thinking for hours at a time about life and writing down so many thoughts. You're talking about a journal of over 300 pages. More than that, it has to be. Yeah, full-length pages, I think more than 300 right now. Probably 400 at this point. I don't know. But the truth is, I'm working on these other books and stuff that have hundreds of pages as well. And the reason why is because I have to eventually get this out to the public. I couldn't just keep all these thoughts to myself after a while. As I grew up in this world, I realized, okay, I can bring that out to the public. So I'm not a copycat. I'm simply questioning the world around me. And then now that I see everything, and now that I see that, yes, I have to be public, and now I have to create a presence, what am I doing? I'm starting to be public. I'm starting to create that public presence. Okay, now I don't know if people like this podcast form, but if you do, that's great. Anyways, generally speaking, we have a world of possibility, a world of, I guess, a journey, adventure, right? That also keeps me going, right? So much we don't know. Use that to your advantage. Use what other people don't know to your advantage. Heck yeah, that's how people get power anyways in this establishment of ours. I'm not looking for power. I'm looking for awareness. I'm looking for people who could have actually self-power, empowerment. Not just power, like not this power system that says I can control you and I have money over you and all that. I'm saying empowerment, as in making your life better, making yourself feel better, and not just yourself, but your family and your loved ones. I mean, actually creating that correlation between, well, this causes cancer, this doesn't, like, just that. Right? But, while I walk around talking, thinking about things, looking outside, because that's often a motivational force for myself, I don't think that's bad. Okay? I don't think that's bad. I think everybody should be able to have access to that information, to that nature, to the realm of open possibility. But I'm telling you, the number one limiting force is belief system, number one. And number two is just that limiting force to begin with. I mean, you're setting limits upon yourself. Every time you do something, there's also a risk involved. Every time you do something. There's always percentages. Think of it like a digital world. I mean, after all, that's what we're creating for ourselves, but you can think of it with imagination. For even imagination got us to where we are. But how do we continue being imaginative if we're just being slaves and following the system that is actually creating? So while they're creating, we're sitting back just waiting. And you're like, oh, that's genius. I should have thought of that. Like, no, it's not genius. You didn't think about it because you didn't think about it. Okay? So when I tell people, like, yes, you can, then yeah, they can. And the thing is, too, another thing that came to mind before recording this was my message. So people will follow my videos, and that's cool. I love it, Again, thanks for the support. Really, really big. I mean, seriously, I could look at this in my past. Every comment someone leaves, I mean, seriously, I could look back at that. I mean, it could stay in my mind, too. I mean, I don't know. I'm blessed to have what I have and to have the mind that I have. I mean, you got to be thankful for what's in your life, okay? And when you create memories, you're going to have memories, okay? When you create things, that's when a lot of things come into manifestation. You got to create things for yourself, right? I mean, there's a whole reason why creativity is in the circle of life, or IIN, which is the school I went to, which, again, doesn't have much to do with my passion or my actual education, which was through research and just through observing the world around me. Okay, but creativity is on there, along with career, spirituality, and all this other stuff. And spirituality, what is that, right? I mentioned atheism before. Some people will probably be mad because they're atheists. I get it. Okay? These are all things we can break down. We can see the bigger picture, though, and we don't have to call ourselves anything. Okay? Yeah, we can label words because it helps us identify what we're talking about. But let's really open this discussion. You know what I mean? And then don't let that take control of love and your acceptance to talking with people and taking them as a human, not as a robot. Right? And so that's why the message is that nature is the answer. I mean, I have many different ways to interpret and bring this message to the public. Okay? And yeah, it's through the works you see the subtle implication that, yes, nature is the ideal, the true nature is the ideal food to eat. Like if there's a banana and, well, that one's a bad example. But let's say there's an avocado, okay? Very ancient fruit. That's why it's so nutritious. It's saved. Look at an avocado, okay? If they start genetically modifying that, is it farther from nature or closer to nature? Okay, there answers the question. Same thing, though, you can apply to every other situation, and that's how I viewed it before getting into this natural law, natural medicine, all that other stuff that came alongside, because they're all intertwined. Okay? And, I can go into why Trump inspired me and all that, and I listened to all his speeches. I understood his position solely. Now I don't even support him. Why? He's a human being. That's it. I respect him as a human being. I love him as a human being. People who call him names and stuff, I'm gonna say, like, dude, what are you talking about? don't stop calling them names, right? And clearly, the left throws a bunch of BS at them. And the left is probably more to blame than anybody else. But generally speaking, statism is going to involve both parties. Generally speaking, none of them know about natural law. None of them know about natural medicine. None of them are even going to talk about them, nonetheless think about them. And then if they do, they'd realize, okay, there's a greater truth to this universe. And then there's actually a universal truth, right? And that's what I try to get to. And it's like bizarre to me, because people will go about their lives, just living their lives, not really knowing, what they're doing. They just go. They just do it. It's instinct, and that's cool. We used that for survival for the longest time. But now we're in a technological age. We really got to rethink everything. Otherwise, the computers will do all the thinking for us. Literally, these machines are becoming our slaves. And you know how that works out, right? With slavery and freedom and wanting freedom and creating consciousness and convincing consciousness, and think about all these scenarios. And yeah, technology is going to be one of the main subjects I'm going to get into as we move on, because it's a very conflicting, a very confusing source upon its life. And the thing is, too, it's not just confusing within its algorithms, especially to the average person, but they didn't have it in existence and presence back then. Okay, they may have predicted a lot back then, but they did not have technology with them. Technology is not something that was particularly talked about that much or thought about. So there needs to be writers, there needs to be thinkers on this subject, since it's fairly new. Yes, the Industrial Revolution brought a lot of great writers, partly due to that. Transcendentalists, right, who were partly politicians as well. Henry David Thoreau and Ralph Waldo Emerson. Right, I typically like their works, yeah. You may even see one of them wrote a poem called Nature. Very applicable, right? Okay, I'm not telling you to be spiritual either when they mention God. Okay, think of it like nature. Frankly, your perception is going to shape a lot, and people make very quick perceptions. And words in their very nature are perception faulty, meaning if you read one sentence, you're going to interpret it different than someone else. Okay? And that alone will speak for itself in the fact that people want to put labels on things, often because and they just don't know much about it, and they want to conclude. They want to say, this is what it is, and that's what it is. Okay? Now, these ideas, again, I'm cultivated through time, manifested through time. This is something that's all unscripted, something that just comes to me wanting to talk about this. You make associations, you make connections, and then therefore you can connect your words, you connect your sentences, just like English, but except we're bringing it to the next level because we're bringing common sense, reasoning, and understanding to the picture. So that way, we can connect all those things. Connect. Everything is connection. If you're going to make health whole, then it is about connection. If you're going to make a human body, it's about connection. If you're going to make a system of the universe where the trees work together with the people, and the people look up to the sky, it's all about connection. Simply is the world we live in is of question. And there are answers. But the answer is at question. Especially at question in a technological era. And so that's what I hope to present. I was going to say represent, but also present. And I have no problem with that. I will stand hold to this my whole life, and I know it. I'm not cognitive dissonant of it, and I'm willing to see other perspectives. But this concludes their perspective. Again, it's for you to have a very perspective. It's for you to be you. So there's really nothing that can contradict it. There's nothing that can come in the way. The only thing that can potentially be an issue is, again, the very underlying perception, but I think, I think the message can hold true for quite some time. And people will always perceive things differently, as I said, what goes for words. But let's understand why I made this phrase. It's because of the techno-tyranny that's rising. It's because of the globalization that's happening. It's because of the mass denaturing of our society, the mass poisoning, the mass control of our society, the mass statism, the mass politics, the mass religion, okay, and even non-religion, okay? I mean, everything in existence, this is what it is. But it's for what seeks to not exist. Okay? So it's for defeating the evil for life to bring up. Okay? It's about creating life, not of evil, but of nature, as intended, and therefore naturally crowding out evil, just as we naturally crowd out bad foods. Okay? I think another thing too is when people eat healthy, and I know this is a little sidetracked, but they eat a healthy food that really enlivens them and inspires them and is amazing, they start to see and feel better just within itself. Feel way better. They're able to see better. They're able to do something better. Okay? It's a very big difference if you're just a sheeple who just doesn't care. Okay? Different sensories, different foods, different flavors. We have a lot to grasp in this era, coming with a lot to create of it. I believe we can even be more imaginative. I believe we can be even more creative and more innovative, not necessarily through way of technology only, but through nature. And you'll see through my works, the poetry within itself is of nature. Why do I say that? Maybe it's not of nature entirely. I'm using it to broadcast on technology as it is. Okay? I'm not against technology. Never said I was. I'm saying to question it. I'm saying that it often denatures us. I'm saying about how we use it or how it's influencing us in such ways that it changes us naturally in a denaturing way. The nature of denaturing. Which is why it's all a matter of nature. Because it very is. It is the is. It is what bees. It simply is. Okay? And I want to deliver different perspectives upon this and different ways of thinking about it. So that's my key role of what to do within the works my entire life. Okay? Just trying to get that message out. Of course, I'm going to have time where I relax, where I'm with family, where I have fun, because that's what life is about. That's what I'm trying to get out there to the public. So I will take the sacrifice to do that, to bring that to people. Okay. Right? Is making sure you also have that sacrifice for yourself. In the fact that you must set yourself free. For the fact that you must love. For the fact that you must be with others. However such ways. See, I don't mind these technological noises that you may hear. Okay, after a while, I live with it. Sure, I don't like it, not entirely. I'd rather just listen to sounds of nature, but that's okay. And besides, it's cold out. I'm gonna embrace and have what I have, but understand its role and its impact on me. The problem is also when these things also cause us to think certain ways naturally, like I said. A lot of things happen unconsciously then. And in other podcasts, you might hear me going more into detail about that, right? I think that's really important. And I think if you want me to, for any situation, let me know. Because I know I cover a lot here. Or a lot of different ways to look at things. Or maybe you're just confused, and maybe you just like to listen because it allows you to hear something completely different for once. Not scripted, not agenda-filled, not selling you anything, just straight from the heart. And the amazing ability that technology allows us to do that Yes, it's amazing. It's amazing what we've created. But what for? Global dominance? For, it's, easier access and web security and easier productivity. And for what? And for what? And for what? Question this. I bet there are many needs in your life, or many wants, if you will. Though definitely needs in many cases. Of things that you'd like. A family or a friend or a loved one or whomever, or maybe you want a thing, right? Because we live in this materialism age of technology. But that too has risen with denaturing, with the world that we live in. So I think it's essential that we provide these silences. To me, it allows me to pause, allows me to think, allows me to reflect. And then do take in the memory. Do take in the presence. And I think that's very important for everyone else to do. Because that's what got me here. Being present, being able to think. Being able to be in silence. Being able to stare at a wall and not having to be on my phone all the time. Sure, now I'm more busy than ever. I'm probably skipping some things that I should be listening to or thinking about. For sure. And very much so, technology is great at distracting. 100%. But understanding what we have and what we have now. And what we'll do and what we can do. Okay? Our very purpose, our very value, our very self, our very drive is going to be determined by everything. Everything's connected. I told you that. Don't be surprised, okay? Word this however you want. It can work in some way. I can abide to any argument if I want to. Because the person that understands the argument should be able to put themselves in the shoes of every argument, right? So, I can work with anything. I was able to prove that George Washington was a black lesbian. Yeah. And how did I do that? Just thinking. Connecting the dots, thinking a little bit outside the box for once. Thinking about how people perceive things. Gotta play on it. Gotta play on the very natures. Gotta maneuver. It's like going around obstacles, especially in a world full of plenty of obstacles, which makes it harder, of course. But also easier. And when you get through the obstacle course, guess what? You're more achieved. You've done more. And so I will try. Thank you very much for listening. Cory, Endrulat, Nature It's the Answer. Thank you.